guys, if we can find our seats, we'll get started. All right, if we can all find our seats, we will get started. Once you turn this over and we take a break, it's so hard to get back everybody in their seats. But as soon as we do that, we will get started. You laughing at me because I don't know. All right, everybody, as soon as everybody is back in their seats, we will get started. All right, making some progress here. All right, guys, before I introduce our speaker, our guest speaker, our keynote speaker, one thing I would love to do is Vince sent a video that kind of sets the tone for what it is that he's going to speak on, and then I'll come back up and I'll give him a proper introduction. But Rachel, can we get that video started?
This song says, no matter who you are, no matter where you go in your life, at some point you're going to need somebody to stand by you. Oh yeah, oh my darling, stand by me, no matter who you are. No matter where you go in life, you gon' need somebody to stand by you. No matter how much money you got, all the friends you got, you gon' need somebody to stand by you. When the night has come and the land is dark and that moon is the only light we'll see. Though I won't be afraid, though I won't shed one tear, just as long as your people come and stand by me. And darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Come on, stand by me. Yeah. Oh, when that sky that we look upon, when she tumble and fall. Thank you.
All right, Vince, follow that. That's not hard to do. Listen, I'm excited to introduce my friend Vince Leisey. For those of you that have not heard of Vince, Vince is the CEO at BHHS Ambassador Real Estate out in Omaha, Nebraska. A couple of things about Vince is that his company this past year closed 12,329 transaction sides, a little over $4.295 billion. 2018 Entrepreneur Magazine named his company as the second best, let me read this exactly because I don't want to ruin this, second best top company culture in the country, the only real estate company that was included in their list. Swan Poll has consistently ranked him as one of their top 200 most influential and powerful people in real estate. He's in the top 100, I know, this year. I've had the privilege, one of the things that they do when we came into home services is they pair us as CEOs with an accountability partner on a monthly basis. And I got the privilege of having Vince as my accountability partner for a month. We really got to know each other a little better. Over the last 2 years, though, Vince actually was the person who founded and started the Rethink Council, which is a think tank of 40 and under people in the Berkshire Hathaway Home Services brand. We bring together, I think we got 9 or 10, 11 this year, that really are a think tank to share with best practices that we get to bring back to all of you. Vince was the co-founder and the mastermind behind that, and I was just privileged that he asked me to be the co-facilitator with him, which I have the privilege to do, which has been great. And just to give you an idea also, Vince is one of the best businessmen I know. He has got businesses that are in the trucking business, in the pharmaceutical business, in everything. I'm going to leave him, I don't have time. But he's got a bunch of businesses. He's, like I say, he's one of the best business minds that I've ever been around. So one of the things is his energy is contagious. So if you don't mind, please welcome to stage my friend, Mr. Vince Leisey. Yeah, absolutely.
Good morning. I think I was outside the top 100, but thank you, Jimmy. And Jimmy cracked that list, right? Which is an important list. And Jimmy's crazy influence. His influence around the network is overwhelming. I know he's helping Gino and a bunch of people in the network. But I am honored to be here. Thank you so much. The reason I like playing that video just as you're gathering around before this is, and it touched my heart, what Jimmy said about his mom, is that nobody in the history of the world became crazy successful or great at anything by themselves. There was always somebody standing by them, a mentor, someone opening doors, creating opportunities. And I think that every now and then we need to reflect and figure out who are those people that helped me get where I am in my life. Pick up that phone periodically and call them and reach out to them and tell them how much they mean to you. I was also an SOB. My mother was in the business. She unfortunately passed away of cancer about 22 years ago. So I walked those same steps, and my mother was one of my huge mentors that created opportunities for me. I'm excited to be here. I've got to tell you about a speech I was not so excited. In 2009, I was called by a good friend of mine, Mark Ronan, who was a broker. We were with the Prudential Network prior to Berkshire Hathaway up in Canada. He had a brokerage outside of Toronto. He says, hey, we're going to have a national Canadian broker owners conference here in Collingswood. Collingswood's a resort area about an hour or so outside of Toronto. Would you be our keynote speaker if I could convince them to pay you to come up here? And I said, what's the date? And he gave me the date, and I said, sure. So I don't hear from Mark for like 2 months. I remember driving down the street one day. He calls me back and says, Vince, I got great news. I says, what's the great news? He says, you're going to be our keynote speaker. I says, cool. He says, can you give us an hour and a half of some of that speech? I'm like, now, I've never gave a speech for more than an hour in my life. I said, hour and a half? I said, I think that's a long time. I says, so we negotiate back and forth. I end up at an hour and 15 minutes, which I'm nervous about. He says, also, I'd love you to give, prior to going up there, a speech to my company the day before. So I agree to that. And he says, I'm going to pick you up at the airport. We're going to have a little party with some of my top agents at my house. And so he picks me up at the airport, and he's taking me to his house for this get-together. And he looks over at me and says, now, I want you to know none of these people want to hear you speak. I'm like, well, why am I here? He's like, no, my agents are really excited, but none of these broker owners. And so he goes on to say, I was on a committee, and there was another lady that was a consultant with Prudential that heard me speak before, and everyone was talking about who we should speak about. And it's 2009, so the real estate market's not that great in 2009. People are not feeling that good in 2008 and 9. He says, I kept pushing you because I thought we need to have something inspiration. Finally, he says, this lady said, listen, who the hell's this Vince Leisey guy you keep talking about? He's like a good friend of mine. He says, listen, the market's not good. I think we need some inspiration, some motivation. I feel like he's the right person. So somehow, some way, they convinced me to come in. But talk about having anxiety about giving a speech. I'm giving a speech for 15 to 20 minutes longer than I think I should be giving a speech. I feel like I now have a hostile crowd. At the end of this, I got a standing ovation, which damn near made me die. I couldn't believe it because I was nervous as hell. And we're having dinner that night, probably 15, 20 people at my table, and a lady walks up to me. She's like, I want to talk to you. And I want to tell, and everyone's like, and she says, I didn't want to listen to you speak today. And everyone's like, oh, she's kidding. I'm like, she's not kidding. She's a big girl. Let her talk. And then she came on to say, she says, thank you so much. That was the message we needed. And a light bulb went off in my head, is that every one of us are really the same, right? We want to be loved. We want to care. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about traits that are important to human beings. And most of them talk about some things that Jimmy and I talked about real estate. But almost every part of what I'm going to talk about can apply to your personal life also. So I hope you take some things out of this that you can apply to your business and to your personal life. But one of the things that Jimmy and I talked about that is really important is the relationships. I believe we've been in this business is a relationship business. In the last 30 years, it's the most important thing. And I believe 30 years from now, it's still going to be about relationships. Technology, innovation, social media, all those things are going to continue to change our business. But to me, they're nothing more than vehicles or opportunities to build better relationships. They're important. We need to utilize them. But we're in the relationship building business. A good friend of mine, Ryan Estes, he gives about 80 speeches a year, consults with Fortune 1000 companies. Him and Seth Madison, I'm going to talk about a little bit later. There's about 5 of us when COVID came. We did a collaboration every single month just talking about things. He wasn't giving speeches for about a year. And so we were talking about things. But he says, if you believe you're in the relationship building business, there's 4 traits that are absolutely essential to have a great relationship. He says that people like you, people believe in you, people have confidence in you, and people trust you. Now, who's been to my explosion event here in Omaha? You've probably heard me say this, so you can't raise your hand when I ask this question, okay? But of those 4 traits, that they like you, they believe in you, they have confidence in you, they trust you, what is the most important initial trait? So as I say each word, raise your hand if you think that's the most important initial trait to building a great relationship. Who thinks the most important initial trait is liking you? Who believes the most important initial trait is believing in you? Who believes the most important trait is having confidence in you? And who believes the most important trait is trusting you? I've talked about this 80 to 100 times. This might be the most people that have ever said trust. So this is the most people that are wrong. It's like. I want you to understand this. Likability is that initial connection that opens the door that allows you to establish other traits. The other traits, to believe in somebody, to have confidence in somebody, or to trust somebody, are traits that take time to establish, right? Now, what's the most common question asked to somebody when you first meet them at a social event? What do you do for a living? The second closest is, let me tell you why this is such a stupid question. Gallup every year does a study around the world and in the United States of, do you like your job or do you not like your job? Around the world, it's like 81, 82% almost every single year people say, I do not like my job and I don't like our boss. Not so good for us, Jimmy. Right, Hunter? In the United States, I quit looking 2 years ago. COVID could not have made this number any better. 73% of people in the United States said they do not like their job. Now, you've just asked the very first question after you've met somebody, what do you do for a living? So now 3 out of 4 people are talking about something they do not even like talking about. Right? So in hindsight, isn't that kind of a stupid first question? A much better question is, what's your hobbies? What do you love doing when you're not working? Talk about something that they're passionate, they're excited, right? That they love doing. You'll find out what they do for a living later. An example of this, you're sitting next to your husband, so I can't. We go on a date tonight. Don't tell my wife. Okay. You come home, you call your best friend. You say, you know what? I don't know if I like that guy, but I really trust him. Are we going on a second date? I don't think so. Now you come back and you say, you know what? I don't know if I trust him, but I really like him. Are we going on a second date? You're going on a second date. Likability opens the door to create the opportunity to build the other traits that are absolutely essential to having a great relationship. In our business, because we're dealing with a huge asset, a lot of money, trust may be the most important trait at the end of the day for people because they need to trust you. But if people trust you and they don't like you and you screw up, they won't give you a second chance. If people like you and you screw up and you apologize and you're sincere, they'll give you a second chance. Our good friend Mark Stark talks about all the time, if you screw up, own it. Take responsibility. Is anybody in here saw Randy Posh, the last lecture? It came out probably 11, 12 years ago. I would highly suggest Google. He was a college professor. He has died of cancer about 10 years ago. P-A-U-S-C-H, Randy Posh. Google the Oprah version. It's about 11 minutes long. He had little kids, and so he wanted to do a last lecture talking about leaving a message for his kids of what he felt was important for them as they grow up in their lives. And he says a lot of great things in there, but one thing that he says, as Americans, we do a really poor job, the vast majority of us, of apologizing. That if you're going to apologize, a proper apology has 3 parts. One is, I'm sorry, which he says everybody says, because if you get caught or you're in trouble, I'm sorry. But I'm sorry is nothing more than a statement. Then take ownership. I'm sorry, it's my fault. Not that Jimmy made me do it, right? Not that Sean made me do it. It's my fault. It's not somebody else's fault. I'm sorry, it's my fault. But there has to be an action. What can I do to make it right, which he says too many people do not do. Mark Stark talks about this. Jimmy and I talk about this. Take ownership, take action, make it right. If you're in the game of business or life for the long haul, you want to have great relationships, you've got to do the 3rd step. Anybody that does lots of business, on occasion, is going to screw up. You're going to forget to put the appliance in there. You're going to forget, to exclude something for the seller. And if you do that, take ownership. I'm sorry, it's my fault. I'm going to buy that for you. I'm going to take care of that for you. People will do repeat and referral business with you when you own up to these things and you build those relationships. The second thing you have to do when you build great relationships is you got to show value, right? I think we've got to stay connected in today's world with more frequently and more clarity than ever before. Let's get together with them. Let's share our knowledge with them, right? So to the point where they want to trust us. We need to do that. Face-to-face is still the best way to build great relationships. I mean, we've got a younger generation that thinks it's through texting and things like that, but face-to-face is without question. You have all of your senses working for you, right? Sight, hearing, touching. That's the best way to build relationships. So do pop-bys, do client appreciation parties, do face-to-face coffees, lunches, things like that. Get together with your people on a regular basis. Give yourself excuses to get together with them to build those relationships. And I think the biggest threat to this business right now is discount brokers. But people are still willing to pay a premium to those who show value. So we talk a lot in our organization about concierge services. What are the things that we can do to show value, to make this an easier, simple, stress-free, and hopefully enjoyable experience for our clients? People will pay you more if you can do those things for them. So you need to be looking at your model, your business. What are you doing to create concierge services, to add value, to remove that stress? This is a highly emotional transaction to start out with, right? People are crazy emotional about this. They're spending a lot of money, and we need to be a calming factor. We need to remove as much of that stress as we can, and we do need to focus on trying to make this an enjoyable experience for people. The last part of the relationships goes back to what I talked about. Seth Madison and David Ellison, a friend of his, did a study around the world. He says there's 56 traits that all human behavior is based on. And I don't know if I've sent you this study, but if I haven't, I'll send it out to you. He said of those 56 traits, they asked leaders, and they asked employees, and just people all over the place. And he said there's a disconnect between leaders and their employees. That the most important trait that Americans believe, the most important trait is belonging. They want a sense of belonging to something bigger than themselves. They want to feel something special. The next 4 traits, I don't remember the exact order, but I have them right, is family, relationships, friends, and community. I've got a slide on that. I do have a slide on that. Sorry. Can you put that slide up there? Those 5 is what Seth calls the togetherness cluster. Now, leaders believe that belonging is the 10th most important trait. So there's a gap that when we're dealing with people, we need to understand these traits are important. Why do people join an organization, join a team, join anything? They want to be part of something bigger than themselves. They want to feel special in what they're doing. So that togetherness cluster is very important. So I've had so many people come back from Explosion and other things. They said, as I go into presentations now, I start thinking about what are the important parts of building a relationship, like trust. But just think about this. The world has changed tremendously. Baby boomers was me against the world, the hell with everybody else. That was a mindset for many years. Millennials has changed the way people think, and it's trickled up to all generations. Now it's about teams doing together, working together, being together. There's so much value in joining groups to be part of things. Heidi Harris, who I think was here last year, right? Who says, I've joined country clubs, I've joined other groups, I've become part of those things. People feel special and connected in those things. It helps you build in your life, and it helps you build in your business doing those things. So I'll send that out to you. But the togetherness cluster, sense of belonging, is very important to us as Americans, and I think really to everybody. I want to read the next thing is I'm going to go into something that I think is really important, is us understanding the value of things. It's called the magic bank account. I'm getting old. I'm older than Jimmy, so I've got to wear these when I read. The magic bank account. Imagine that you won the following prize in a contest. Each morning, your bank would be deposited $86,400 in your private account for your use only. However, the prize has rules. It has 5 rules. 1 is everything that you didn't spend each day would be taken away from you. 2 is you may not simply transfer money to some other account. 3 is you may only spend it. 4 is each morning upon awakening, the bank opens your account and puts another $86,400 in the account for that day. And 5, and finally, the bank can end the game without warning at any time, saying game over. It can close your account and you will never receive a new one. What would you personally do? Would you buy anything and everything you wanted, right? Not only for yourself, but everybody you loved. Not only for everybody that you loved, but for everybody that you didn't even know, because you couldn't possibly spend all the money yourself. You would try to spend every penny to use it all because you knew it would be replenished the next morning. The truth is, the prize is real, but the prize is time. We just don't seem to see it. Each morning we awake with 86,400 seconds as a gift from God. When we go to sleep at night, any remaining time is not credited towards us. What we haven't used up for that day is forever lost. Yesterday is forever gone, and each morning the account is refilled. But the bank has the ability to dissolve our account at any time without warning, and life is over. I tell you, in my life, time is much more valuable to me than money. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about understanding what your time is worth as you're analyzing things in your business. What would you do if you're 86,400 seconds? Those seconds are worth so much more than the same amount of dollars. Think about and remember to enjoy every second of your life, because time races by so much quicker than you think. Take care of yourself, be happy, love deeply, enjoy life. Wishing you a wonderful and beautiful day. Never complain about growing old, because many people do not get the privilege to do so. We need to understand the value of time. We get into business and we talk about what's our rate of return on $1,000 that we spend or $10,000 we spend. And then if we're doing something like with their time, it's like, oh, that doesn't cost me anything. Oh, it does cost you something. You need to understand. Noah was with us last night, and he says he knows exactly what his time per hour is worth. You need to understand the value of your time. When you're analyzing in your business or any aspect of your life what your return on your investment is, it's not just the return on the dollars you're spending. You should also be analyzing the return on your time. As a general rule of thumb, based on 40 hours a week, working 50 weeks a year, that's 2,000 hours a year. For every $100,000 you make, your time is worth $50 an hour. Within a matter of 3 minutes, we can walk through this, and I can tell you exactly what your time is worth per hour. So if you make $200,000 a year, your time is worth, as a general rule of thumb, $100 an hour. So if you're spending 10 hours on something, that's not free. You should value that as if you spend $1,000. Are you getting a return on that $1,000 you spent? And if you're not, use that time to do something you enjoy, or use that time to do something that's going to help you be more productive, to help you accomplish your goals, that's going to yield you a better result. So I would say periodically analyze that, understand what the value of time is. When people start building teams, and when they start, if you're doing 30 plus transactions a year, here's what I know. I know for a fact you're spending 15 hours a week doing non-productive, non-revenue generating, non-business growth activities. My question is, if you're worth 85, 125, if your time's worth that much per hour, why are you doing that? There's only two reasons you're not hiring an assistant. At $20 an hour down here, Jimmy? $25 an hour? That's a lot lower than 80. See, at $25 an hour, if your time's worth $85 an hour, you're costing yourself $60 an hour by doing that activity yourself. Why not take that 15 hours and hire somebody else and take those extra 15 hours to enjoy it with your family, your friends, and your hobbies, and part of it to grow your business, to take it to the next level so you can be worth $130 an hour, $200 an hour. There's only two reasons. One is because people think nobody can do it better than me. They're control freaks. They won't let go of it, right? There's somebody in this room like that. I know that for a fact, right? Because I was hard on me. I had to get over that hurdle. And two is you think it's costing you money. It's not costing you money. It's saving you money. And you're going to have a better quality of life when you focus on those things. Darren Hardy. Anyone know who Darren Hardy is? Darren Daly. He has a video. He was the publisher and editor of Success Magazine. He has probably interviewed more billionaires than anybody in the world. He was a coach for Richard Branson, interviewed Steve Jobs before he died, Warren Buffett, most of the billionaires in the world. And he says, the super achievers, the best of the best in the world, make more money, have more free time than overachievers. He says, as an overachiever, he says, that's what I was for the beginning years of my life. I worked longer hours, I was successful, I made a lot of money, but I had no balance or free time in my life. Right? And making lots of money but not living life isn't a good program. So he said that what he found out is the super achievers, those who are the best, making more money, more successful, are spending more time on their private islands, their private golf courses, their private planes, living life, doing things they enjoy because they're intentional. They focus on the few. Studies show that when we do 2 or 3 things at one time, we're going to do them very well because we're focused on a few things. When we try to do 4 to 10 things at a time, we're going to accomplish 1 or 2 of them. We won't do them as well as if we were focusing on less. And when you try to do 10 plus things at a time, multitasking is a myth. It does not work. You will do none of them well because you're trying to do too many things at a time, and you'll be lucky to accomplish 1 of them. Focus on the few. So when I talk about time, one of the things I do with our organization and every one of our mastermind groups, which I have 15 of them now that I do on a monthly basis, at the end of each year is a thing called the 1-3-6 process. It's a goal setting and a time management tool at the same time. The one is, what is my goal? And if a business is, my goal is to make $250,000 a year, how many units do I need to sell to accomplish my goal? Okay? And you can do this with your personal life too. And then the Darren Hardy approach, the 3. What are the 3 things that I need to do? And this is the great thing about our business. You only need to do this 1 to 2 hours a day. What are the 3 things I need to do an hour or 2 a day, make a daily habit, right? Do it 5 days a week, that are business growth, revenue generating, prospecting, activities that are going to help me reach my goal. What's the highest and best use of my time that's going to help me get there? He says, Warren Buffett at the beginning of the year sets all of his priorities. Then he goes back through them and he figures out what his top 3 priorities are, and he rips up the rest of them because he says, if I focus on these 3 priorities, it's going to help me reach whatever goal I have for that year. Understand the highest and best use of your time to help you accomplish your goal so you can have more free time in your life to do what you love with those who you love. And the 6 is where we so often fall short. The 6 are what are the 6 things I need to stop doing, do less of, or hire somebody else to do because they're non-revenue generating, they're non-business growth, they're non-prospecting type of activities. People tell me all the time, I'm busy, but they're not productive. Being busy does not equate to being productive. I have to talk to my managers all the time. They tell me how damn busy they are. It drives me crazy. I'm like, well, quit sitting there for 45 minutes chit-chatting about nothing with people. And then you get to the end of the day, you've accomplished nothing. You've said, oh, I can't call somebody to recruit, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. I'm like, you're your own worst enemy. If you do not know where you're spending your time, is it social media, is it Netflix, whatever, if you don't know where you're wasting time, if it's chatting with friends, you only have to do this for a week. From the time you get up in the morning to the time you go to bed at night, in 15-minute increments, write down, what did I do for a week? And then go back with the highlighter. What was revenue-generating activities that was going to help me grow to accomplish my business or my goal? What were time wasters that I was doing that was really not helping me achieve anything, maybe giving client service, but I wasn't really growing my business. But also in that vein, I want you to have a third aspect, which should be part of everyone's schedule. What are the things that I'm doing in my personal life? Date night, time with the kids, my passions, my hobbies, the other things. We want you to live your life with intention. We want you to have that as part of that. But go back there. You're going to be embarrassed when you see how many highlighted things are non-productive, non-revenue generating activities, and how few, if you're honest with yourself, when people do this in the beginning, are helping you do those three things that are helping you accomplish your goal for you to live the life you want. 1-3-6 process, it's very simple. I need to be simple, but it helps you do that. You need a system. You need something to do to help you do these things. If I don't time block, my Apple Calendar that's it. If I don't put it in there, I can make up excuses better than anybody. Procrastination, that's how we are. That's human behavior, right? It's easy for us to make up excuses not to do things. So create a system for you that works. But I found for the majority of people, time blocking, put it in there, try to have someone hold you accountable. You know, that's the great thing about what we do with our things. I'm not sure we hold each other accountable, but we get to know each other better. But try to have someone help. Accountability does help you be more productive, guys. So try to figure that out. But understand the value of your time. For every $100,000, you're worth $50 an hour. Hire out the things that are not the highest and best use of your time. Can I put up the next slide? Another thing that Jamie and I talked about that we wanted to chat about is the world's changing at a pace that we've never seen before. When we agree that the real estate industry's over the last 2 to 3 years has changed probably more than it has in the previous 20 years. If you're not embracing change, I'm going to take a drink here. You're missing out. What does every one of these companies on this screen have in common? They're all gone. They were all giants, right? They were all the best in their industry for the most part. Why are they gone? They didn't change. If you do not embrace change in every aspect of your life, you're not growing. Tony Robbins says, if you're not giving and you're not growing, you're not living life and you're dying, you just don't happen to know it. And I believe that. You've got to embrace change. The world's going to change with or without you. But here's the problem. Understanding and knowing the world is changing and saying, oh, the world's changing, it's not enough. It's not going to get you where you want to be. Kodak was the first company to develop a digital camera. They not only knew the world was changing, they created the change, but they did not embrace the change. They were making so much money on their big Kodak cameras and Kodak paper that they didn't embrace the change, and they got left behind. Blockbuster. Some of you are too young to know who Blockbuster is, but I'll tell you, if you go back to 2000, what was there? More Blockbusters on corners or more Starbucks? Blockbusters. Every corner, everywhere. And I haven't even checked for 3 years, but the last time I checked 3 years ago, there was one left in Oregon. I'm not sure what they're selling now. Right? Blockbuster had the opportunity, right? Having the opportunity is not enough. They had the opportunity to buy Netflix for $50 million a number of years ago. But they're like, no, this is never going to take us over. They did not understand the fundamental change that was taking place in their business. So knowing it's going to change, having the opportunity to make change, you can even adapt the change but not embrace the change. If you're not changing with it, you're going to get left behind. Toys R Us, I believe in 2001, hired this little up-and-coming company called Amazon because they understood that it couldn't be all through brick and mortar anymore, that they had to figure out how do we start shipping stuff out to people. But they didn't figure it out fast enough, and they went out of business. So please, 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 understand what others are doing, learn from them, figure out what your strengths are, grow upon that, but continue to change. And anytime you go to a conference, you're going to hear a bunch of things, and you might take 10 ideas out there. But again, please, 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 go down to the few. Figure out what is 1 or 2 things at a time I can go and change in what I'm doing, which is what part of my routine that'll help me be more productive as I move forward. And when you get great at that, then go back to your list and add something to it. One of the best ways I know to embrace change, I talked about, is we do 15 mastermind groups, and I know you guys do some mastermind groups here, right, Jimmy? Mastermind groups, if they're done properly, in my mind, properly is through the attitude of abundance. When I bring 15 to 20 people together, I do like-type production people. In our very first meeting, I set them down. I says, listen, if you live by this attitude, everybody's going to win. The attitude of abundance to me is we come together, even as competitors in the same marketplace. We openly share what we're doing, what's working, what's not working, what's our struggles. We encourage each other. We learn from the past. We have this mindset that the best is yet ahead and that there's more than enough for everybody. No mastermind group is going to have more than 2% of the market, at least in our market. I'm like, that leaves 98% of the market. Yes, you may compete with her on a deal, and she may get the buyer this time, and you may get it the next time. But if you all come here together and you share what you're doing, if you're collaborating together, you all are going to walk out of there improved. Megan Owens, Sean, shows up every time. Megan Owens does 150 houses as a single individual with one assistant a year. How does she have an hour and a half every month to make time to come to her mastermind group when the agent that does 4 deals a year says, oh my God, for the appointment they've known for a month, makes me crazy, I got a showing today. I got a listing appointment today. I'm like, what? You do 4 deals a year? You could not book that before or after or some other time, but an agent that does 100 or 150 deals understands the value of it because they know when I come to this, I'm going to walk out of this better than I was this morning. There's huge value. Never have an attitude of scarcity if you're others. And a big value is, let's talk about what's going on in the marketplace. Most agents are 2 to 3 or 4 months behind what's going on in the marketplace. If you're sitting every month with other productive agents talking about what's going on in the marketplace, what's going on for activities. I track daily pendings because I want to know what's going on. I go talk to people in new construction. Tell me about activity. I talk to people that have lots of listings. I want to know about multiple offers. Are they selling below list price? Are we doing price reductions? Are we selling above list price? How many offers? Are we getting 5, 10, 20? When you know what's going on in the market and you're talking to other people, my top agents use that as a vehicle when they go into listing presentations. I sit every month with other top producers, so I've really got a feel of what's going on at the market. Here's what we've seen over the last 30 days. There's not been a 30-day period over the last 2 years the market has not shifted some way. It's just been crazy. We don't know. Interest rates are going up. Activity's going up. Activity's going down. Get in there and then share ideas with each other. There's so much value in the attitude of abundance, being in a mastermind, sharing with people that are even your competitors in the same marketplace. When I talk about change, it always reminds me, I didn't bring a belt, Jimmy. I wear Lululemons anymore, so when I was packing, I didn't pack very well, so I got to keep pulling my pants up. I apologize. I was fortunate enough, before we were Berkshire Hathaway, we were with the Prudential Network, and that's who Prudential actually eventually sold it to Home Services of America and Berkshire Hathaway. But I was fortunate enough, Prudential came to me and asked me if I would help them create an innovation group. And we went to a number of places. We went to Yahoo. We went to MIT, University of Michigan Ross School of Business. But the place I enjoyed most is I was fortunate enough to go to Google twice in New York City in their meatpacking district. And the second time I went to Google was about a month before Steve Jobs died. And one of the heads of Google was up there talking. And he said, you know what? Everyone thinks we hate Apple. He says, we don't hate Apple. He says, actually, we have the utmost respect for Apple. He says, having competitors like Apple makes sure that we never become complacent. We never take our foot off the gas, that we continue to stay focused in on the things that we need to do to make sure that we can continue to be a better version of ourselves. And in fact, they put up later in the day a lady that was head of all marketing for Google, and they said, we believe, and they showed it, we believe the greatest commercial in the history of the world was shown once and only once. And most of you are not going to remember this. It was shown in 1984 at the Super Bowl. And it was the lady from Rocky 17 or whatever number it was at that time, running through like this and throwing through the screen a thing introducing the Macintosh computer, saying the world will be changed forever. They're like, we think that's the coolest thing ever. So moral of the story number one is competition is not bad. Competition makes us sharper if we're on our game. We learn from what they're doing well and maybe embrace some of that. And we figure out what we're doing well and do more of that. We're doing better than them. But always look at your competition, other agents, other companies, and figure out what are they doing that we can learn to help improve us. But Google goes on to say there's two fundamental differences between us and Apple. The second time I was there was only like 50 people in the room. We had 4 from Prudential, an executive from Prudential, myself and 2 other brokers, Caldwell Banker, Century 21, Remax, Keller Williams. Everyone had 4 or 5 people in the room. And we all signed confidentiality agreements saying we wouldn't share anything they were sharing with us. They said the first thing is Apple would never do what we're doing today. They would not bring in people from the outside, confidentiality agreement signed or not, and say, here's what we're doing, what's your thoughts, and share those things. Apple doesn't give a shit, he said, of what people on the outside does. Apple's going to do what Apple wants to do, and then they're going to tell you why it's so great. They said that's just a fundamental difference. Not ours is right and theirs is wrong, but this is how we're different. And the second thing is he says, Apple doesn't roll anything out until Apple believes it's perfect. We roll things out, and he talked about rolling out, I think, at that time, Google Huddle and a couple other things. I don't remember what he said. He says, we know none of these are perfect. In fact, some of these might not even work at all. He says, but we're going to roll these out, and we're going to continue to change them. And that as we continue to change these, they will continue to improve. And the ones that we figure out not going to work out, we're going to stop as soon as possible. But we're not going to wait for the fear of failure of not rolling something out because it may not work or it may not be perfect. And I went back, and my next sales meeting was fundamentally, we have the mindset of Google. We are going to do things. We are not going to sit on the sidelines for the fear of failure. We are going to make more wrong decisions than all of our competition combined, but we're also going to make more right decisions than all of our competition combined because we're going to continue to try things. I remember when I went to MIT in 2010 or 11, whenever it was, I came back, they're like, you got to do QR codes. Your business doesn't get it. The model industry in Europe and everyone's using QR codes. And I went back and we tried QR codes and it was a complete flop. But I don't regret trying it. And look at QR codes today. If you're not using QR codes today, you're missing out. And so I'll make decisions walking down the hallway. Now, since I've sold to Home Services of America, this is enough to make you want to slit your wrist because they can't make a decision in a timely manner if they had to. So very, very, very frustrating. So I try to have other people deal with that stuff. I still make decisions and I just get in trouble later. But make decisions. Do not sit around and overthink and overanalyze things until you drive yourself crazy. I mean, I hear people talking about the craziest things of what should I do if this or that. I'm like, who cares? I'm like, just do something. Embrace change, guys. Embrace change. I'm looking at time, Jimmy. Couple quick stories, then we'll be done. Passion, energy, excitement. Study have shown people are drawn to that. I want to tell a story about how passion, energy, and excitement really, quite honestly, propelled our organization to the point we are today. I feel like this is really the first steps that really started giving us a lot of momentum, and I try to run our organization on this concept even today. In about 2004, Omaha started doing a bunch of downtown condos. Up to that point in time, nobody had really done that. There had been some small apartments that were converted to condos, but they were taking office buildings and warehouses, and condos was kind of becoming a thing. And so at this time, there was a building called the B.B. Runyon Building, downtown Omaha, which is an old warehouse where a developer from Philadelphia, his kid, and another guy were going to develop that. And they invited 3 people to give a presentation. It was us. It was CBS Home. At the time, it was the largest company in our marketplace. They had over 40% market share. They took the president of their organization. They took one of the top 5 agents in the marketplace, and they took another agent that was very good to give their presentation. MP Dodge, which had 22% market share at the time, took the president of the organization. They took 3 young agents that were doing some of these small apartment conversions, so they had some experience and some passion about that. And they invited us. I went down with an agent, Lori Paul. I keep looking at Sean because he knows these people, who had been in the business a little bit over a year. And I saw her husband. We were at a party, 5-6 months later after this. And I said, did Lori ever tell you about the first time we went down to give our presentation or to talk to the guys at BB Running? She said, oh, yeah. She was scared to death. She was absolutely convinced you were taking nothing with you and that CBS and Dodge was going to take flip charts and PowerPoints and all of these things to woo them about how great they were. And so I'm driving down. We're in the suburbs, and our meeting was downtown at a hotel next to the project. And Lori looks over to me, and she says, Vince. I said, yeah. She says, what are you taking with you? I said, you? All of her fears were coming true. She does not say a word for the next 5 to 10 minutes. She says, Vince, can I ask you another question? I said, Lori, you can ask me any question you want. She said, what do you plan on saying? I said, I'm going to listen. I really don't know. I'm going to shoot from the hip and hope for the best. She's scared to death. All of her fears. We are going to crash and burn. This is going to be a complete disaster. She has no desire to walk in this meeting with me. We get in there. I pull in the parking lot. I said, Lori, walk in with me. Let me do most of the talking. Sit there. Be nice. If I ask you a question, try to answer. But you don't really, if we crash and burn, it's on me, not on you. That was the best news she had heard the whole trip down. She's like, okay, I'm going in. Let him do this. I had nothing to do with this. I don't know why I'm even here. We end up getting the project. 80 units, $30 million project. Now, in Omaha, Nebraska in 2004, even in 2004 here, that was probably $30 million, probably a pretty good sized project, right? And we didn't get it because we cut the commission, because we did it at a 6% commission. We did not cut the commission. One of the gentlemen that was from MP Dodge went and had lunch with the developer, and both the developer and this team both told me the same story. And they said, why would you give this to Prudential? And I had brought on not only just a one-year agent, but a part-time agent at the same time. Karen Fraser was also working at MUD. So I didn't look like any genius. He's like, we would have been disappointed, but we would have understood if you gave it to CBS. They have huge market share. They got a good agent. We could get that. We think we're best suited. We love these things. We've done these little apartments, so we've got some experience in this. They have no experience. They have next to no market share. They have inexperienced agents. Why would you give the project to them? And he said, we felt a karma. We believed their passion, their energy, and their excitement would help us sell units faster than anything else. Their excitement about the project was as much as our excitement about the project, and that we believed when buyers would see that excitement, that it would get buyers excited to want to buy these units. And we went on to dominate. We did 80% of the condo markets in downtown Omaha for the few years they last. We got the largest bankruptcy deal in the state of Nebraska, which was Benchmark, that went broke. And it was never about cutting commission. In fact, on the Benchmark deal, the biggest broker went, which they're so stupid they don't realize that's public knowledge. We came in at 6%. CBS came in at 5%, and then when the paper says, I don't understand why they would give it to them, we even asked to do it at a lower commission, which does not send, I don't think, a great sign to their agent saying, we tried to get it for less and we didn't even get it. Guys, sellers and buyers. Andrew Undrum talks about this all the time. Love the house, love the people. When you go in to a house, have passion, energy, excitement, right? Andrew says, someone makes an improvement. Now, whose decision was that, his or hers? That was a great decision, right? Get them, people are drawn to that. In our office, they're drawn to that. In life, they're drawn to that. What do I got, Jimmy? I don't want to, okay. Last story, because I got 2 minutes left here. Simple acts of kindness. How do we treat people? My ex-wife and I was down in Ixtapa. Ixtapa's in Mexico, above Acapulco, below Puerto Vallarta, 15 years ago. So one night we decided to go over to Zihuatanejo. Zihuatanejo is a neighboring town that has a marina and a bay. We're going to take a sunset cruise. And as we're waiting to get onto the boat, one of the deckhands comes out with a plank, 1.5 feet wide by 6 feet long, to put on the dock we're on to get on the boat. And I've got this elderly couple standing behind me. And this lady, you could tell, just had anxiety and fear in her. And so right as we got up to it, I just turned around and I said, hey, why don't you grab my hand and I'll help you over. And when you get halfway, grab the hand of the gentleman on the boat and you'll be okay. And so we go out for the sunset cruise, and as we're coming back to the marina, she comes up to me, and she's got a piece of paper or a notepad like this. And she says, I've been writing you a letter for the last half hour. And she shows me the front of it's full and most of the back of it's full. And she says, I finally decided to come over and talk to you. She says, you know who I am? I said, you were the lady standing behind me as we got on the boat. She says, yeah. She says, thank you so much for helping me on the boat. And I'm like, of course. I mean, like, you would hope almost anybody would do that, right? And I don't tell this story much because it gets me emotional thinking about this conversation with this lady. She's like, as you can tell, my husband can't get around too well, and we're getting old. She says, I'm 91 years old. My husband's 93. She says, we've been coming down here for the last 20-some years with our kids who are 65 to 70. She says, this is our last vacation or trip we're ever going to take. And she's got tears coming down her eyes. And I swear, I could not sleep that night. I tossed, I turned, I could not get this lady out of my head. As I talked about 86,400 seconds in a day. Life is precious. We do not know when we took our last trip or our last vacation. Tomorrow is not a given. I hope it doesn't happen, but God doesn't know when we're going to get in a car accident or something tragic is going to happen. Live your life with intention. And I tell people, what I did there was nothing more than a simple act of kindness, right? It's something that we should just be part of our nature. If you want to change your surroundings and your environment that you're in, with your group of friends, with your family, or your work, everybody can have a great culture and be in that space. It can start with you. I encourage people, if you do 5 simple acts of kindness every single day, help somebody, open a door, carry something for them, buy something, for the Starbucks, the person behind you, or McDonald's, compliment somebody, being sincere in what you're saying to them. Simple acts of kindness done on a regular basis takes you no time at all. You can do it in a matter of seconds through the day, but it changes your environment. What it does, it puts a smile on a face and makes someone start feeling better that may be having a bad day. And that becomes contagious. At the end of the day, guys, life is short and precious. Live yours with intention. Enjoy your journey. I want to do one quick last video here, and then I'm done and I'm out of here, and I'll turn this back over to Jimmy. But thank you for having me here today, guys.
I don't mind where you come from, as long as you come to me. But I don't like illusions, I can't see them clearly. I don't care, no, I wouldn't dare to fix the twist in you. You've shown me eventually what you'll do. I don't mind, I don't care, as long as you're here. Go ahead, tell me you'll leave again. You'll just come back running, holding your scar out in hand. It's all the same, and I'll take you for who you are. If you take me for everything, do it all over again. It's all the same. Hours slide and days go by till you decide to come. However long you stay is all that I am. I don't mind, I don't care, as long as you're here.
That was great, huh? Absolutely. Killer, dude. That's pretty cool. Thank you. I appreciate you more than you know. All right, he said 3 or 4. He said 3 or 4. All right. Hey, can we get a round of applause for Vince Leisey? Guys, we've got a couple more things. A couple things I want to mention while we're getting a couple things queued up here. One of the things that Vince mentioned was about the accountability groups. That was something that actually I really have studied